Good morning everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to look at how we use Lightroom to edit a Milky Way photograph. We're going to take this photograph, we're going to edit that photograph and hopefully end up with results something similar to this photograph here. So to make these changes we're going to use some lens correction tools, we're going to use some sharpening and noise reduction tools. We're going to use the basic editing tools. We're going to use the Radial filter tool and we're going to use the cropping tool. So let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do with this photograph is increase the exposure so we can see what we're working with. We're going to scroll through the tools until we get to the lens correction section. We're going to tick both of these boxes. The first box removes chromatic aberration. The second box is the lens correction tool. It shows the lens you were using. I was using a Canon EF 17 to 40mm for this photograph. From here we go back up to the top of the toolbar and we make our basic corrections in this section here. Now we could try and use the auto white balance, but you'll see what happens if I select a white patch of this photograph. It makes it way too green, so we'll forget that. We'll make the changes manually. We'll set everything back up to zeros. And we'll just make the blue of the sky, we'll change that to 5,500 and hit enter. We will add a little bit of contrast, maybe +8. We'll bring the highlights right down. We'll increase the shadows up full. We'll add some white and we'll add or bring down the blacks. Next thing we'll do is increase the clarity and add a little bit of saturation. So that's the basic changes. You can see we've gone from this to this. The next tool we're going to use is in the cropping section here. And what we're going to do is adjust the angle of the photograph. And the way we do that is to click on the spirit level and we draw a line through the horizon, which I believe is somewhere there. As soon as we take a finger off the mouse, it makes that change. We can fill the screen again. Oops. And click done. Now this next step is the step we take to really make the Milky Way pop out at you. And it's the Radial filter tool. So if we click on that Radial filter tool, come over to the photograph and start to open up an oval mask. We're going to turn the mask on its side so it's the same angle as the Milky Way. We're going to widen it up. Now we're going to make that as long as we can possibly make it. Going to really drag it out and fill the screen with it. Now the reason we do that, it spreads those changes over as much of the Milky Way as possible. I'm just going to line that up a little bit more. That looks better. I'm going to open that up really quite wide. Now, these next two steps are quite important because we only want to make changes in what's inside the mask. So we click the invert button. We then take the feathering control and we move it up to 100. What that does is makes the changes that we make on that Milky Way blend better with the rest of the photograph or the rest of the sky. Now, once we get to this stage, we can center a little bit more on the core of the Milky Way. Now, so the first thing we're going to do is increase the exposure. Now you watch what happens to the Milky Way. Somewhere there, I think. If we change the temperature of the Milky Way, really highlight the yellows, you'll notice that the exposure, contrast, highlight, shadows have been set automatically, and but what we're going to do is increase the blacks down to about 94, 95, increase the whites up to the same, 94, 95. Maybe we'll just spread that a little bit wider. And we're going to increase the saturation slightly to 3 maybe. And now once you're happy with those changes, I think that blends quite well. Click the Done button. And once again, if we go and look at the original photograph, the Milky Way is really starting to pop. Now, you may think you're happy with that, but I like to make one more change. I like to scroll down to the noise reduction section, tools, and choose a section of the sky there, and you can see all the noise in there. We're going to try and reduce that noise by using the luminance slider. I'd like to take that up to maybe 70, which may be a little bit high. I like to take the smoothness up to 60. Now look at the photograph from start. Really quite dark, quite grainy. Can't really make out the Milky Way. And the final result, which may still be a little bit on the bright side, so we can bring down the exposure a little bit. But I think that's quite acceptable. There's the before, there's the after. Same photograph, a few changes, makes a world of difference. Just to briefly go over the steps again, we added the noise correction, we made the basic changes with the original photograph, we used the crop overlay tool to line up the horizon, we used the radial filter to make changes to the Milky Way, and then we scrolled down and added some noise reduction. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up. We're going to be making a few more of this type of video in the near future, so keep an eye out for those, and thank you for watching.